Okay, then let us start with the migration part of the course. I have chosen a project that is written in Angular 13, which we will download and then migrate to Angular 17. And also we will take a look on what we have to look for, and later we will quickly check how the changes we made by the migration to improve the application with Angular 17. So what you have to do is, on the one hand, you can download it by Git if you have installed it, or you can download the zip. And if you download the zip, you can then open it, unzip it, and then open it with VS Code. That's how I currently proceeded. So then let us quickly take a look how it currently looks like. Firstly, you have to make an npm install in that folder, because otherwise you can't start it, because you don't have all modules that you need to start the application. That will need a while. So after the installation, you can now type npm start to start the Angular application. After it shows compiled successfully, you can access that application by typing localhost 4200, and here we see the application that we're working with. As I said, that repository is not from me, but I think that this application has a complexity which allows us to see all the difficulties that you could have by a migration. What the application currently can do is you can click on cards, can see some details, has some images and some data that it shows. You can click on this full screen, which allows you to go into the issue. As you can see, if you not already know, this looks like the Jira application that comes from Atlassian. And you can, you see you have some routes, you can change some stuff, but all of that is without a backend, which means most of that stuff is only visually. But yeah, it allows you in first place to have a little view about some components, and yeah, you can drag stuff from one column to another. Yeah, it has some stuff to play around with. So, but as you can see, it's not a super complex application, but I think that can show us how complicated it could be. And yeah, okay, then let us firstly start with the Angular update guide. Here, this guide can help you when you want from one Angular version to another. I already have selected that our application has a complexity of medium. If your application is more complex, you can change to advanced. Then you're selecting what your application uses. In my case, it uses Angular material, and we are using Windows. And then you get a checklist from Angular with all steps you have to do. Ready to learn Angular 19, 20, and 21. This course covers everything new in these latest versions. From hydration, event replay, resource API, signal forms, we cover it all. You will get a complete playground app showcasing all features. Plus, we will build a weather app from scratch to implement everything hands-on. Full source code for both projects included. Check the link in the description. So, let us quickly copy that comment and paste it into our console. We firstly stop the application and then paste it into. So now, as we already had it before, if you have some problems with the ng update stuff, you can type ngx to run that comment also, because in that case it means your global environment variables not working completely correct, but yeah, it's not needed to fix it because you can already use mpx. Now we need a few seconds. If you get that same error that we saw in here, it says to you that the schematics is not in the right version to make this update. This kind of issues you will have most likely, because if the application is not that big, it would work, but for my case, it has a few dependencies and all of them has to be adjusted. What you're mostly doing is you're typing force after the comment, and if you now make that, it will adjust the Angular versions, but yeah, will ignore errors that could happen. After the migration is now finished, I'm using here Git. If you want to install it, you can do it. And here you can see what Angular have changed. You see that there are a lot of files that have changed automatically. You can see here in the console that Angular, by the installation, it also makes some migration steps, as you can see, execute migrations, which changes some component code or Angular JSON code to adjust it to a newer version. We will later also execute for Angular 17 comments that will migrate our application to use the new technologies. But for the moment, we will see that more often for every update, because, for example, if we look here, it changes untyped form control to a form control. And here, for example, a form builder and so on. So, but the problem now is that because we have forced this installation or this update, we have now some issues here. If you're now typing npm I, you have now issues that it says it can't resolve some dependencies and so on. And that's now a kind of loop that you have to repeat and go on. We will go for the first files that you can understand how you can go forward. But at some case I will kind of skip it, because that is then based on the application and the dependencies of the application. So what we're now doing is we're looking in our package JSON. We come from here. So, and what it says here is the Angular ESLint schematics version 13.1 says it has an issue with the CLI. That means that if we look at our dependencies here, you can see we have here ESLint builder, and we should also find here the Angular ESLint schematics here, and it says that version 13.1 has an issue with CLI 13. So what you now can do, that's one way. There are multiple ways. You can type this into Google, search for the npm package, and then you go onto the versions and look for the Angular version, because most likely this versions has to be adjusted if Angular changes. In our example, it's 13 and we want it to be 14. So, and here you can already see 40, 14, 14. So, which means we can use that version and use that version instead of the current one, which means we're replacing this with this one, and then we can make an npm e again. But yeah, as you can see, it's always schematics. So, which means we make an npm e because we don't see any issues other than the ESLint schematics. So, and now we run directly in the next error. Here it says end design icons Angular have an issue with Angular comment 14, which means we can repeat the process, copy that one, search for that, go to the npm package, and again searching for a version with 14. Then we looking for the end. I think it has to be here somewhere. And yeah, here. And then we're replacing that one with this. And again, make npm e. And that's kind of the process you have to repeat all the time. Because here you can see then it's century Angular. And here, for example, we have the first time where the version is not equal to the Angular version. And most of the time, if you go step by step, you would look then on that package and look for a version that is like one main version more. In my case, it would be 7 something. Yeah, it's currently 6, which means we look for 7. I will go with that one. And it's newly published, which means it should be one of the newest ones. Then we go back to this place, search for the century, Angular, that one. And sometimes if you see that, for example, from the same main package, there are the multiple ones, and you see that it is the same version, you can most of the time replace it twice because they mostly get updated together. So then we have here again ng Zorro. Then we're looking, that is the 13, which means it most likely would be oh no, that isn't the one. It sometimes has to find the right package. Yeah, that has to be the one. And yeah, here in that case, we find that one, copy that one, and then searching for the package and paste it, and again. And that's a process you have to repeat relatively often. There are some other solutions. I will go with one different solution that could help you with this updating. So, but in our case, we solved all issues. You can see the npm e has some vulnerabilities, but that's most likely because we are in Angular 14 and there's already Angular 18, and yeah, they're not really, it's always better to have an up-to-date repository than like working with a previous Angular version and previous node and so on. The other option would be to install a package, for example, npm update. Yeah, here for example, update dependencies that allows you to make npm update for latest, for example. That's sometimes not really working that well because, as you can see, you have to then be up to date all the time. But for example, there are different ones that allows you to see some other versions. Yeah, here for example, we can quickly install it because we can use it eventually later. So now we have most likely finished the npm packages. Then we check out the npm start. So now we have an issue that the version of CLI only compatible with Angular version 13. Okay, and now it's something that they already have checked, because here there is a custom webpack. Here, that one. And yeah, because it is used for Angular to build, and you already can see that this version is still 13, you will get issues with that. So with this new plugin that we now have installed, we can quickly check. We want a version that is at least 13. So, and what this plugin now doing is it's searching for versions. And what I've done now is I know that this version has to be 13. And we can then say, okay, if this is the newest package of the version of this the newest version of the package, we can update it here and then make an npm e again. This kind of issues you can sometimes get because of packages that you not know if you're updating it. That is my case. Or you can get this if you using this custom webpack in your repository or any kind of other builder that are currently in use. And now we can check again for the npm start. And now you can see that Angular starts building everything. And as you can see, everything works fine. And we have finally finished with the Angular update of version 14. Like from 13 to 14, we have now migrated. So we can quickly check if our application works fine. We can reload and everything works fine. And we can also see in the inspector that ng version 14.3 get used. So, which means we will then continue with the update from 13 to 15.